Hey friends, CowboyJobu here with the Jobu Sports Report, and as always, thank you guys for watching, commenting, and subscribing to the Jobu Sports Report. And if you want to stay a well-informed Dallas Cowboy fan, click over here on the picture of me and Sean Lee. Now today, of course, what else? Tony Romo is always the topic of discussion. There's no more telling tale than this one for those who think Tony Romo is coming back. The Dallas Cowboys have yet to talk to him in a month and a half. Let me say again, they have not had a conversation with Tony Romo in a month and a half. They've said that Dak Prescott is definitely their quarterback. They said we'd like to have Calvin Moore back. They said they'd like to sign a veteran quarterback as well. Yet, you haven't talked to Tony Romo? Sounds like the writing's on the wall if you ask me. He will be released, I can guarantee you, before the start of free agency. Let's go to the tape.
Infamously said it doesn't take a rocket ship scientist to figure out how these two teams might have a common interest in a certain quarterback. Granted, we don't think there's going to be a trade. Let's go back live to Indianapolis. James Palmer covers the Broncos for us day in, day out. James Slater covers the Cowboys for us day in and day out. Jane, we talked a little bit earlier about Tony Romo. Don't know that we learned that much from Jason Garrett there, but where's the Romo story today now as you see it?
Well, one can only imagine how frustrating it is to not hear from your owner, your GM, your coach about your future in Dallas. That's really Tony Romo's situation right now. A month and a half, if you listen to what Jason Garrett was telling us on the podium, that he hasn't had an official discussion with them. Jerry Jones says he hasn't had a discussion with them. I caught up with Stephen Jones yesterday, and he said that Jerry is sooner rather than later going to talk to Tony Romo about his future, but nothing definitive. This has been one of the more intriguing storylines, James, in this offseason, because no one really knows where he's headed. If you want to read between the lines, talking to Stephen Jones yesterday, he said that they expected Dak Prescott to be their quarterback for the next 12 to 15 years. That was the hope. And that they wanted Kellen Moore back, their backup quarterback, who sustained an injury in training camp last year, and that they would look to put behind Tim either a veteran or a guy in the draft, or maybe just leave it alone. So it doesn't seem like there's any room for Tony Romo. And, you know, it's sort of unfortunate when you think about the long tenure that he has had in Dallas, and hard to believe that all it took was one injury for a guy to unseat him. And now we're talking about where Romo's headed, and really no one knows right now. But there seem to be a lot of rumors and speculation about where he's headed, James.
There are a lot of rumors and speculation. That's where we stand, because we have to remember that really it's tampering, guys. We can't talk about Tony Romo. John Elway and Vance Joseph, both with the Denver Broncos, cannot discuss anything regarding Tony Romo because we're not there yet. Now, this is what we know about with John Elway, though. He's all about the finances of things. Remember the Colin Kaepernick situation last year? A lot of that stalled because the number was not where John Elway wanted it. Along with Brock Osweiler, their number was not where John Elway wanted it, and he moved on. Now, that number, if Tony Romo, as we have to keep saying, is released, is where the Broncos are interested, then yes, they would kick the tires on Tony Romo, and why wouldn't they? Just as both their head coach and their general manager said, we're up for anything in free agency because you'd be a fool not to be. So if you can improve your roster through a veteran quarterback in Tony Romo, and again, like you said, nobody knows in terms of his health, that could improve your roster. It's a move you are interested in and perhaps making. But at the same time, I will say this. Many players have told me that they're backing Trevor Siemian as their quarterback of the next season unless they see some extensive growth from Paxton Lynch. And then I've been told by some players that they're pushing Tony Romo as well, and a possible moving him to Denver to be their quarterback. These are all these guys' opinions because, again, it's just speculation, Andrew.
And with that being said, I want to go ahead and throw in there, you know, again, kick the tires on a guy that if they release him, you can renegotiate his contract. This is a guy I think would take a bit of a pay cut in order to show that he still has that competitive juice in him. He's still capable of pursuing that Lombardi trophy, something that he wanted in Dallas, something that frustrated him because the Cowboys were finally able to put together a team that was capable of that. And then for Trevor Siemian and Paxton Lynch, you get a guy that is a player coach. This is a guy that the Cowboys have expressed interest in having on their coaching staff in the future. So to me, it's a win-win situation if, in fact, Tony was released. And I think that's what the Cowboys want to do. They want to make sure they put him in a situation that gives him a full array of options. And I would anticipate that that starts happening pretty soon with free agency kicking off and teams beginning to see, do we need a quarterback through the draft, or can we find one like Tony Romo that comes at a discount that will be good for this team that we can implement right now?
You know, it's such an obvious fit. Peyton Manning did it before. Could it be Tony Romo? Or maybe it's just a team that we're not even thinking of yet. We'll find out next week when the Cowboys make that inevitable move And free agency actually opens. Thank you, Jane Slater and James Palmer, live there in Indianapolis as we try to